This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Are you ready to change? Today's guest, Kimberly Horvath, used her experiences of being blocks away from the Twin Towers as they fell on September 11th, 2001. What she learned since that day fueled her inspiration for her book, Out of Ashes, Using Life's Fires to Ignite Your Spirit. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So I can't even begin to imagine what it was like being anywhere near the Twin Towers. I remember watching it unfold on TV like most of the world did. And I think I was about 6 months pregnant at the time.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I look at the baby I was pregnant with at the time is now 19. And it just seems like it was yesterday.
It does.
So that's a crazy experience to go through. So maybe you can share with us what you mean by, like, what are life fires?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely one of those events where, it's like, do you know where you were? And everyone knows exactly where they were at that moment, right? So the term life fires came to me literally while I was writing the book last year. And I realized that, just like when there are fires in the forest that happen and we're sad to see the trees go and all the other things that go along with it, the truth is that afterwards some beautiful things happen in the same area. And so I call life fires those events that happen in your life that, you may not have caused them, you definitely didn't expect them, but you're stuck right in the middle of it all, and they kind of knock the wind out of you, leave you in a place where you don't really know what to do with this. Some of them linger for a while because you may have questions for a while, but if you're willing to embrace what has happened to you, then something beautiful can happen as a result of this awful thing. So that's what I consider a life fire. It has a way of moving you forward if you allow it to. You have a choice. You could be stuck or you could move forward.
Yes. So how do you take something like standing blocks away from the Twin Towers on September 11th? How did you take that as a life fire for you, and what did you get out of that experience?
Oh my gosh. I honestly feel I still am learning from it all these years later. I don't think that I will ever stop learning from it. But one of the things is that, people say this, but I really wake up with this every day that I am grateful to be here, whatever today might bring. I'm so grateful for life and to actually be here. I'm grateful when I look outside and I see people and I'm able to walk in nature. I'm grateful. And I'm really grateful when I can have meaningful conversations with anyone. I don't care if I know you or I don't know you. That really is special to me. That season, I think most immediately, I mean, I was in a state of trauma and shock for a number of years because I continued to work there with 9/11, my backdrop, right? So this happened September 11th. In November of that same year, I was right back downtown working again. And so every day I went to work with the pile, right? Right there at the backdrop. Literally, the back door of the hotel was a huge drape, and it was where ground zero started. When I would walk home and I would, there was finally a point I remember when they allowed us to be able to walk up to the World Trade Center site. And there was like just a little walkway where you could walk to get to the subway. And I remember the first time doing that. And, understand like that was, 2001. I didn't leave there until 2004. So for that entire time, I was in a state of shock and didn't know it. So I was functioning, moving, living, experiencing life, but I literally was in a state of shock. And I did not know it until I moved to the South Jersey area, started working in Philadelphia, and the next 9/11 came in 2004, and everyone was acting like it was life as normal. And I was like, the heck is this? Because I was used to the tense feelings. I was used to preparing for, the memorial that would occur that day. I was used to having to stay overnight in a hotel and making sure that everything was going to be fine. I was used to the feeling that something might happen again that day because we did feel that way. And then there was this feeling, something happens. I know that is true of people who experience 9/11. I'm assuming that anyone who collectively experiences a traumatic event probably have this as well. But literally leading up to 9/11, the week of, my body kind of remembers the trauma and I could feel it. And so on 9/11, I am literally moved into this other state. I usually am very quiet to myself, not around a lot of people, because it's as if I'm having an out of body experience and I am remembering the moment. And literally the next day after 9/12, I'm fine. And this is true of many of the people that I worked with that experienced 9/11 with me. It's like your cells remember what happened when it comes to that particular trauma. That's how deep it is. So that's why I think I continue to learn from it every year. Every year I learn from it.
So, how did you move from that state of trauma to now being able to wake up every morning with that sense of gratitude?
It is definitely a step by step thing. First was the choice that I was going to live, right? And when I realized that I was going to survive 9/11, like when I finally got to Staten Island, and then the only thing I want to do at that point is get home. And so, as I wrote in the book, I walked over the Bayonne Bridge. I was actually in a pair of socks because I had broken the heels of my shoes. And a group of us just wanted to go home, regardless of what that meant. Once I got home, there's always a series of questions after. It is, what are you going to do about work? Are you going to go back into New York City again? That was huge. Am I going to go into New York City again? Because I had to get on a train, to get there. I had to get on a subway to get there. There was walking in New York that was a part of getting there. And so you have to make all these decisions amongst feeling very afraid and very vulnerable and not really sure of what was going on. You felt kind of out of control because when 9/11 happened, we had no control. And so you had to slowly build that trust by what you did. So I did decide to go ahead and go back into New York. So that was my first yes. So it was asking the questions and giving an honest, authentic answer. Are you going to go back to work? Yes. Are you going to go back to New York? Yes. Are you going to go back to the job that you had? Yes. Are you going to work in ground zero? Yes. It was a consistent yes, slowly. And then you make adjustments along the way because I couldn't do it the same way. I was just thinking about, having this conversation with you. And one of the things that even to this day remains true is I always have a pair of sneakers with me no matter what, right? Because that day, if I had had a pair of sneakers, it would have been a little bit different. And so, I one of my part of my yes was that I was going to wear sneakers all the way in and all the way home. And so even now when I travel, I could wear my shoes now. I couldn't wear shoes before. I used to have to wear sneakers, but I graduated to being able to wear my shoes, but I have sneakers in the car with me everywhere I go in case I need them. That's a part of making the decision to continue to move forward and to not allow the trauma to cause you to identify yourself in a way where you limit your experiences. So the way for me to feel safe, the way for me to know that I can continue to move on is I have a pair of sneakers with me all the time. And that's fine. My sneakers don't hurt anybody. Right? It's fine if I don't need them. I'm actually happy if I don't. But it's just one of those things that gives me some assurance. So it really is saying yes to all the questions, or no if I don't feel safe enough, and saying yes in a way that allows me to feel safe. And you just keep doing it every step of the way.
So your sneakers, in a sense, have become your safety net.
Yes.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, you've been able to consciously move forward because you're acknowledging that there's some level of fear or uncertainty, and what are you doing to mitigate that problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you pretend that you don't have it, then you're going to set yourself up for a bad situation, because you can easily move into a place of trauma. Things can remind you of a terrible thing that happened, right? So you need to be honest with yourself so that you can know where you sit and what your limitations are at any given moment. And a lot, my guidance really comes from my faith. So for me, it's knowing that what I feel in my gut is right. I know that. It never fails me. Actually, as a matter of fact, the truth is that if I don't do what is in my gut, I always regret it. Always. So
Yeah.
I know, you know what I'm saying, right? So I know that if I feel it's a yes, it's not even optional. Like I may not want to do it, but I'm going to have to, because I know that it's the right way to go. So yeah, it's definitely it's a different way of living, but I think honestly that it's the right way. And if not for this experience, I don't know that I would be relying on my inner self as much as I do. It's one
And
of the good things I think that came out of it.
yeah, and I think you touched on a very important point there, and that's trusting your gut and knowing what's right for you. Because you saying yes, going back to New York, going back to your job, going back to ground zero,
Mhm.
you were able to say yes to that, and you found ways to support your decision.
Yes.
But because everybody is different, that decision may not have been the same for, as I'm sure it was for people that you
Mhm.
worked with that went through the exact same process as you did. They just came to a no because they couldn't find their sense of safety.
100%. We definitely had people they were just a flat no. They were not coming back. They were not going to be in the area. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. That experience, unlike anything else, and you have to find your own way. Everyone has to find their own way through their stuff, right? I mean, everybody goes through stuff. That Let's just say that, right? That's just true. And some people might go through very similar experiences, but you know, one person and their method and way of getting through it works for them, and for other people not so much. You have to go with what feels right to you, and don't feel any way about it. Don't feel like there's not something wrong with you because you're choosing to go through something differently, or not choosing to go through something. There's nothing wrong with you. You're doing what's best for you, and that's what's most important.
So throughout this journey, at what point did you decide, hey, I'm going to write a book about this?
you know um I think there was a part of me that always knew, but definitely probably by like my third, fourth year after 9/11, I knew that I would. And I honestly can say that there were several attempts at writing a book. But I also know that when things don't seem to come together, then just let it go. And things were not, they just weren't coming together the other times that I was writing the book, because I was really at that point just writing a story. And it was just my story of what happened. And while this is the same thing, it's my story, it's, I think now, much more authentic, because as a coach, the purpose of this story is to encourage people to get through their stuff. I don't want people just to read my story. You know what I mean? Like, we can just have a
Yeah.
conversation. But I want you to be inspired to read it, and to allow it to encourage you to move forward in some way in an area where you previously were not willing. That was the point.
So if somebody is listening to this
Mhm.
and they realize that, there's some stuff they need to work through, they have to move forward in some way in their life, what would you say would be an ideal first baby step for them to take just to start creating that motion that can build into that momentum that they need?
Okay. So I always tell people that you are the greatest common denominator in all your stuff, right? You really are.
You're always there. You can't blame anybody else.
You cannot. You are always there. And so I say, um, it's hard to do, but kind of take a step back and be a third party observer in the things that happen in your life and look at the themes. What's similar, right? Is it that people are always leaving you? Is it that you have so called friends that aren't really friends? Is it that you're always short on money? Is it that you're always sick? Like, what is the common denominator going on in your life causing you some serious difficulty? The common thread. When you realize that, you start to see maybe, these are some things I can work on. And I don't necessarily say go to the one that's the hardest. I say go to the one that's the easiest so you can gain some power and support from accomplishing something that doesn't take so much, right? Because we need that energy to ride on. But, after taking a look and assessing, some things, you have to really make the decision that you are willing to behave differently in order to have a different outcome. And the challenge that happens often is people want to behave the same way and have a different outcome, and it doesn't work that way. The stuff we that comes our way is to shine a light to us with what we need to change. That's what it's for. So if you keep behaving the same way, you keep putting out the same energy, you're going to keep collecting the same stuff back. And you want to disrupt that in order to get to the next place. So, I say you have to be willing, you have to know that you're willing to take that next best step. And then after that, it's really just the idea of doing it. And you can write out 15 different steps, like what can I do that's different? People have different methods. It might be, okay, this is what I've always done. What is the polar opposite of that? Right. And maybe you'll fall somewhere in between. Maybe you'll take a look at some self-help videos or read some books and see what other people have done. And if something rings true to you, r- go with it. And most importantly to me, like I tell this to people all the time, if you are a person that follows any type of spirituality at all, like whatever it is, find your steps in that and grow your faith. That's what faith is for. And I think that one of the things that unfortunately, as an American, we don't tend as much to see our faith as, this is a way of living. It's a part of our identity. It's kind of who we are in that kind of way, where, like saying my name and saying, what I believe in are the same as they do in other countries, because we have such freedoms. We can separate it out, and we're often encouraged to do so. But I believe that we should be one person. And so, like I don't want to be two or three or four people. I want to be one. So, being one person, I want to understand what is it that I believe in, and what I believe in needs to work for me. I only know that if I try to work it, right? If I try to walk in it, if I try to actually do what it says, it is either going to work or it's not. And if it works, I'm going to keep on doing it. If it's not, all right, well, that one can go by the wayside. So I say, like, if you have any type of belief system, use it. Like, that's really where your greatest power really should come from being attached to something greater than you with all the answers. I mean, it's like that to me. When I say it like that, it's a no-brainer because I don't have
Yeah,
all the answers,
it
right?
makes sense. And the thing that's popping into my head is, church isn't just for Sundays. If your
Yeah,
church spirituality falls into the same thing,
yeah,
it is whatever your practice, your faith is,
yeah.
it is part of everyday life, not just
Every
something
day.
you do once a week.
Yes.
Um, Now, you mentioned earlier about finding books or videos or even mentors. Who were some of the people that helped you along the way?
I have been fortunate. I really have. I've met some phenomenal people that I know that were placed in my life for that particular point in time. Some people that are just my regular everyday kind of folk. But then, there are also people that I look at, that are much more well known. I mean, Oprah is one of my favorite people, right? I mean, she's a lot of people's favorite people, but I just look at her story and I look at how she travels in life, and one of the things that I see is authenticity. Like I like to watch her interview people, um, because there's something in the knowing and the telling of a person's story. Also, there've been a lot of great books. One of the ones I love is The Four Agreements. One of my favorite books. I read it every year several times. Um, Love that book. Um, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and a few of the other books written, by Agbendino. Those are some little books, but powerful, right? Like little but powerful. I like little but powerful.
Yeah, they don't have to be massive novels. It's
No.
they can get their message across in a
Yes.
few pages if necessary.
Yes, absolutely. There have been a lot of spiritual teachers from my religious foundation that I have like followed for years and years and years. And what's interesting? It's kind of like I feel it from within, like, where I'm led to go. Sometimes it is to listen to people deliver, the Bible, a message, and to receive that. Um, and then there are other times when it was to, watch videos and read books. Abraham Hicks is another one, with the law of attraction. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's been a lot of time with that. And the thing is, by the time I found Abraham Hicks, intensely engrossed in the Christian faith. So my ears heard scripture
Yeah.
whenever Abraham Hicks was speaking. Like that's what I heard. And so it rang as a safe truth for me, because the truth is the truth, right? Like no matter what it is the truth is the truth. It doesn't matter where it comes from. So Abraham Hicks was a big one that I still follow now, which I find is interesting. There's been many, a lot of them in the form of book and video, a lot of them in that form.
Yeah, and those are, those have been two of my favorite tools over the course of my journey, is either finding the right books or stumbling upon videos. And one of the great things is if you're looking at your videos on YouTube, there's always one that it recommends that's similar or in the
Yes,
same line. So it,
yes,
takes
yeah,
it takes the difficult research out of it.
that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
so where can people get your book?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, my book is on Amazon, and actually, within about a week, it should be available on Kindle as well.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, yeah, I had a few people asking for that, so I'm like, okay, okay, okay. It wasn't as easy of a transition as I thought it was, but yeah, in about a week, it should be available on Kindle.
And if people want to connect with you and find out more about your story, what's the best place?
The best place, go to my website. It's my name, KimberlyHorvath.com. And you can, get my email there. You can connect me there, connect with me on Facebook through my website. Those are the best ways.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're looking at connecting with Kimberly, I will have all of her links in the show notes.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Roller coaster. Ride, ride.